Okay, in this video, we're going to take a look at how you can display a CLOB inside a modal page pop-up in your application. For the example, we've got a simple table here. It's got a query ID as a primary key and a document that represents as a character large object. We've preloaded some data, as you can see here, for the various rows. So let's take a look at how it can work. If I go into our application and run it, you can see here we have a table, and what we're going to do is add another column over here to preview the text that's inside of a binary large object as a CLOB value from that table. So if I go over here, the first thing I'm going to do is create a new page. We're going to make it a modal dialog. Okay, on the page, I'm going to create a new region, and we're going to set this region, let's just call it, and we'll set this to PLSQL dynamic content. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and create a page item here. We're going to mark this as hidden. We'll go back to our PLSQL code. We'll look at this code in a little bit more detail in a second, but for starters, just to see how it can work, we're going to go ahead and copy this block of code. This will be in my Git repository, linked in the video, and we'll paste it in. We're going to change the item name just to the one we just created. We'll validate. Go ahead and hit save. Now we can go back to our home page where we had our report. And the first thing we're going to want to do is add a new virtual column. We're going to make sure this column is actually a link. Then we're going to define our link. So we want it to branch to page 6. And we want to make sure we set the query ID item on page 6 to the ID represented in our table. Now, one of the things I like to do is kind of go over here and give a little icon for the modal pop-up, and I can hit save. If we go back to our application and hit refresh, we see our new preview text column over here. If we click here, it'll actually pop up and preview the text for us and from the character large object. Let's go back and just look at our code real quick. Inside the PLSQL code to do this, we declare a few variables. A couple things to note here. The CLOB we're going to pull in the CLOB from the table into this variable. We have an integer called AMT. This is the maximum bytes that we can pull in a CLOB in Apex. That number is actually 8,000 today. And 8,000 bytes can be pulled into a varchar2 of 32,767, which is the max buffer size. So those are the two maxes if you want to take advantage in Apex, the version we're using today. Next, we're just going to simply read in the CLOB from our filter docs table. And then I have a little check here where we want to see if how long the particular CLOB is. In this particular case, if it doesn't exist or if the value is 0 bytes, then we're just going to say, hey, we haven't finished the indexing for this document yet. Try again later. Else, we're going to simply get the max length of the document and iterate through in 8K chunks, printing to the buffer with an http.p command here. When we run out of data, we've got a little catch-all here, so we'll mark the variable as empty and we'll close the program. And this is how we print the character large object to the page.